See if we can get this sucker going right on time. Okay, here we go. Call this regular city council meeting to order on July 1st, 2024 at 6 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bateman?
Present.
Mr. Sanders?
Present.
Mrs. McClellan?
Present.
Mr. Parrott?
Present.
Mr. Downs?
Present.
Mrs. Ross?
Present.
Mrs. O'Donoghue?
Present.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, this evening under public participation, we have a speaker card from Mr. Todd Henry. Todd, if you'd like to step forward.
Well, I've been warning a lot of people for a while that they were coming, and they came. And Work Camp for Lincoln 2024 is in the books. We had 230 teenagers, youth workers, and staff come in, representing like 13 diverse churches, but from 9 different states: Minnesota, Michigan, Iowa, Nebraska, even as far away as South Carolina, drove all the way here to impact our community. I've got a big picture of everybody at the camp and stuff, and I was going to bring that, but it really doesn't show a lot of other people that I just wanted to mention that were just huge in the week. Open Arms Church was our host. In 2021, it was LCU at the time, but they had us back, and it was just great because the campers normally sleep on the floor on air mattresses and not so air conditioned, that kind of thing, and they all had beds and air conditioning, so they were well rested to work hard for us all week long, and they enjoyed that. The one part of the campus, though, that's not been totally restored is the kitchen, and so we knew that was going to be a bit of a challenge because normally you use school cafeterias. So we had no place to prepare food. So we did the non-conventional, and we catered everything in. And Heather at Flossie's was our main caterer and did an incredible job. It kind of upped the level of food that you would normally get at a summer camp, that kind of thing. And I want to quickly mention there was tons of people that provided food, but Sorrento's, Daphne's, Stuffteria, Culver's, Happy Walk, Boomer's Barbecue, Deep Roots, Nuthatch, Top Hat, Gazzardo's, and the Guest House. So everybody pitched in just to make that happen and stuff, and everybody was so pleased with that and well fed as well. We had like over 50 local volunteers did a variety of different things, helping serve the food and even to carrying in luggage when people got here, that kind of thing. There was a group of 12 guys that some of you went to the site, saw, called the Green Shirt Guys, and they had Work Camp for Lincoln shirts on and had some construction experience, that kind of thing, but really were there right beside the kids, make sure they didn't build the wheelchair ramp upside down or paint the wrong house, and pretty essential to this because most of the kids come, they're not experienced, and the youth workers don't have a lot of experience either and stuff, and they just were right alongside the 20 or so people that came from out of state to run the thing. I definitely wanted to mention all our donors, including you guys, and your tremendous support that made that happen. We weren't in want for materials and supplies and that kind of thing. It was just great to not have to be squeaking it on that end. We had 35 crews that repaired and renewed 34 different homes. So I mentioned before, there was a variety of different projects. I think we did 8 wheelchair ramp new builds. Drywall, soffits, porch, even some roofing, just really made a huge difference. And 2 really stand out. One is a gal that I know that for the last year, just because of her physical condition, they've had to call 911 even to go to medical appointments and stuff, just normal doctor's appointments, because the nature of her house and her condition, to get them out, they really needed the firefighters and everything. It was a big ordeal. And now she's got a brand new ramp all the way to the car, and it just changes everything for her, a life changer. And then another person who in the community that's actually done a lot for other people in the community but has some health problems and was actually in the hospital for a couple of days during the week, probably knows as much of any of us in the room how to build a house and to do that kind of thing. He just can't physically. It was a real humility thing for him to allow us to come and to change his house. And it looks totally different, a brand new porch, paint job and stuff. And in fact, the joke was that I hope we don't stress him when he comes home from the hospital and can't find his house because it looks so different and stuff. And that Chicago Rendell and Brandon, those guys, were wonderful with renting equipment that they donated us to use. I have, as some of you have built fences before and done manual fence post digging, and those auger things were very popular and stuff. And I myself decided there's a lot of ways to build character. We weren't going to do it with digging post holes this week. We were gonna get those done, and it just made things a lot quicker and made it very popular with the kids. And then working with RP and Lumber and Sherwin-Williams, keeping everything local for all our supplies and everything. It was just a really good relationship. So it turned out good in the end and was a good thing. So normally at the end of these weeks, you shoot for, like I said, I've done these for 26 years. I go into Michigan in July for another one. And normally I hear they come out at 94 to 95% completion rate. And that's a great thing. And then you have a few things that you do at the end that you just kind of have to fix so the kids they can get to. I'm proud to say that out of the sites that we had set up, plus we added 4 more at the end on Friday that kind of scooted, we had a 100% completion rate. So there was absolutely nothing left that we started that we didn't finish and stuff. So it was really cool to be able to say that. Total of, if you added up all the hours of all the staff and the students that of this week, it comes to 121,200 hours of service that were donated. And this week of work, which financial, if you put that at minimum wage and see what kind of investment that was economically to doing these kind of things, it's kind of astounding. And not only a boost to the local economy when they spent money here and did that kind of thing, but I just really appreciated all the residents when they drove by. The kids were telling me that they were waving and whistling at them and hollering, saying thanks for being here, and that kind of thing, and seeing their signs. And there's days where they wore our T-shirts, and you could tell the kids around town. But it just was a real shot of hope, as I shared with the adults at the camp and stuff, a little of our history in recent times, a shot of hope in our community. At times we've taken some hits and stuff like that, but to really say we're alive and well and that things are good in Lincoln. So it was a great thing. So, yeah, some of you guys actually went and saw some things too.
Alderman Barrett?
Yeah, we'd just like to thank you and the team and for bringing it to the city and to the residents. You talk about all the things that the students did, but as the volunteers, the time that you and your team put in as well behind the scenes is amazing, and we applaud you for that. And when having spoke to some of the students and just the team adults that were helping too, I was also impressed with the adults and the impact that they had, the students had on them as they were going through it as well. And I know former Chief Bob Donowski said to me at a later date that he's going to do this again at a different city, a different state, donating his time, how well he was impressed. And then to hear someone, I think from Ohio as well, another adult that has taken his own kids and other teams, I think probably annually every year, and the impact that they've had, I just thought that was just tremendous. And thank you again for doing what you do.
It's hard to follow that. Ms. Rolfs, did you?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I can't really elaborate much more than what Steve put on there, but Lincoln is very blessed to have you and the people that help organize this, and all of those students that came. There was one in the group that we went to that was from Nebraska, and as you know, but maybe not everybody else does, those kids actually, they raise funds to come to other towns and do this work for us out of the kindness of their heart. So it says a lot.
Gives you a lot of hope for this next generation of stuff, certainly seeing what they did and stuff. And I should mention, I always forget this, but Capsule was huge as my nonprofit partner in that and stuff. Brianne Titus, and just handling the accounting and things. I'm not an administrator by natural gifting and stuff, and it was just tremendous. But obviously they serve a lot of the demographic of the people that we were serving year round in so many different ways. And so I have an ongoing relationship with a lot of these people and stuff, and was essential. So they should definitely get kudos as well.
Just one more thing. Just want to thank West and his team as well, because I'm sure that they had a piece to getting
Permits.
I'm sorry.
Permits,
yes, exactly. Thank you. Getting the permits and checking things out and making sure things were up to code and all that. So thank you, Wes, and your team.
So if people wanted to see some of the completed projects, obviously without going on people's property, do you have a list of those?
I do.
That we can share, or
Yes,
could
not
you
here. but I
confirm
can
with
get
some
it.
people?
Yeah.
Because like one of the ramps that we saw, it was, I mean, I know that the kids built it and it was a team, but if you didn't know any better, it looked professionally built. They did a remarkable job.
Yeah, they work. I mean, yeah, they do. I mean, and when you're saying with the adults, it's a real kudos to them, because the challenges of being an adult on this, the priority is the kids do it as much as they can and stuff. And so a lot of these projects to build a ramp, we could probably get a group of guys and do it in a couple days or maybe 3 days. It's going to take them all 5. And we allow them to make some mistakes here and there and that kind of thing. But we had some new volunteers, these green shirts in it, and they were saying it's so difficult because some of these guys are contractors and stuff, and like, oh man, oh yeah, I knew that was going to happen, okay, we'll get a different board and we'll try it again, or we'll do, or they could do it faster, but holding back and letting them do that kind of thing. It's so much a sense of pride that these students learned a skill and they did it, and did that kind of thing. So there was certainly a lot of guidance and oversight, and it was done to code, and we do it right, and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's a very good thing.
Well, thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, is anybody else like to speak under public participation? Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. This evening's consent agenda consists of 5A, payment of bills, 5B, approval of May 14th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting, May 20, 2024 regular City Council meeting, May 28th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting, June 3rd, 2024 regular City Council meeting, June 11th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting, June 11th, 2024 regular City Council meeting, and 5C, request from KL West from Print Digital to close various streets Saturday, July 27th, 2024 from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. for the Mustang 60th celebration with Ford Motor Company.
Move to approve.
Alderwoman O'Donohue made the motion. Alderwoman Rolfs second. For discussion, I've asked Mr. West to join us again today. I know I did, perhaps some of you did as well, received some requests from some of the downtown businesses. They actually had an event called Retail Therapy, and they had already scheduled this with downtown businesses. They do it 3 or 4 times a year. It happens to fall on that day. So they have asked if it is possible to move the Kickapoo Street portion of the event to Broadway Street. I wanted Mr. West to come and talk with us, and then the council to talk that through so that we could get this event approved, but in such a way that meets the needs of everybody. So, Cale, did you want to step forward and just in case there's questions? Mr. Bateman.
Okay, so remembering the map, it was like a big giant U, Kickapoo, all of Pulaski down to Hamilton Street.
Yes.
So now the problem would be, I got 2 problems.
Let's do this.
If you disconnect it, now you've got Broadway, Kickapoo is open, McLean is open, Pulaski is closed, and part of Hamilton is closed. So that's kind of a disconnect where you're going to have cars trying to drive through, people walking, if you can picture what I'm saying here with all these cars. And the other thing is, in looking back, we already approved cars and coffee on that day on Kickapoo Street. So it's kind of odd that we're allowing the cars and coffee to close Kickapoo, but then we're turning around and asking them to open it for Caleb to have his event, which we could have just barricaded it, left it closed, and had the event. So my question is, or my request is, if we're going to ask him to move, we need to rearrange it so that we have flow of traffic, pedestrian and cars. So either cars with coffee would have to move also, maybe close McLean Street, which the post office is going to give you grief, but I've dealt with that over the last 13 years. Like do Broadway, McLean, Pulaski, Hamilton, if you can picture that. Broadway from Kickapoo to McLean, all of McLean Street, Pulaski, and then is Hamilton. So it'd be like a zigzag.
Yeah,
People
like
could
this.
still go to the post office by parking right here in front of the city hall and stuff.
If I may, one reason why we had that big giant U as well is because Guest House is one of the vendors that Ford is going to be paying for drinks and pastries, and I know that was kind of one of the plans was people would arrive on Hamilton, go all the way down, park, and fill in, but then they could stop at Guest House and pick stuff up. That, and then as Mr. Bateman explained, the confusion of the roads might be a little interesting.
If Cartersville Coffee's already there, why are we closing it and then reopening it?
Ms. Rolfs and then Ms.
I
McClellan.
guess I had a question. Why would Broadway be much different from Kickapoo? I mean,
Because it wouldn't be in front
The
of-
street's wider, I know, but,
It wouldn't be in front of the businesses that were concerned.
so there aren't any businesses on Broadway that are participating in the retail therapy?
Well, they are all part of the downtown business group. Whether they're participating or not, I don't know. I can find out.
Well, it just seems strange because there used to be as many businesses on Broadway as there were on Kickapoo. At least that section of Kickapoo.
Well, I brought this forward because businesses had concerns. I do think that it might be a little too late, as Mr. Bateman said, to make the change. But we've already talked internally about some ways to avoid these from happening in the future here at City Hall. So, and I've asked the downtown businesses for us to kind of bridge that gap a little bit in that relationship. So as they're scheduling events, let us know, even if there's not a road closure. And then internally, we could manage a event calendar for downtown, and then it'll tell us if we have conflicts. We already do that stuff with booking this room, booking my office downstairs, because we had the same problem. We had double bookings. So we need to improve and get better at how we do this. Ms. McClellan, then Mr. Bateman.
I'm not one way or the other. It's just speaking, but the Cars and Coffee was till 10, and we found out that nobody in Lincoln gets up before 10 unless they're going to go to Guest House and get coffee or something. But really, there's no shopping. Most of the stores aren't even open till 10. So that's kind of an apple and an orange, because before it was just until 10, and then the Cars and Coffee. Now it's going to be until 1. So, like I said, I'm not one way or the other. I appreciate the things that go on downtown, but I just wanted to put that in there, that there is a difference. So,
Mr. Bateman.
So my feeling is, I understand there's a conflict. None of us knew about this downtown business event, or we could have brought it up when we brought this forward. I kind of feel we should leave it as is. This might be a good thing for the businesses, because we're going to put a lot more people in front of those businesses with this car show than we would be if it's just local foot traffic. I know I'm just saying that, but I think I have some experience just with the barbecue event. I got one or two that complain, but I have other businesses that's their best weekend ever, because we put a lot of out-of-town people that don't know anything about Lincoln, Illinois, in front of these businesses. So this might be a 1-year learning curve, and it might be the only year, because it is the 60th anniversary, unless Caleb's already starting to make plans for the 61st anniversary. But usually you don't celebrate cars like that. You do it on years of 5. My vote is to just leave it the same, and let's hope it works out better for everybody.
Were they more concerned about the parking of customers, or
Yes.
what did they say?
That's generally the sentiment, is that they've put this event together, they've promoted this event, they're trying to get people in their stores, and this could hinder foot traffic into the stores if people have to walk further to get there.
But this may put a lot more foot traffic in front of their stores.
So I do see this isn't the first time that we've addressed this type of topic, just it was a different circumstance. Mr. Landers.
Would it be possible to consider closing just half the road around, use the whole, all four sides of the square, close half of Kickapoo Street on the northbound side, and then half of Broadway Street on the eastbound side, and then you could close McLean Street completely on the southbound side, if that makes sense, all around the courthouse square.
I would be concerned for safety. Just having, help manage Third Friday events down there as long as we have it, just, it looks like a very big road, but not once you get cars and people in there. Then you got to figure out how to put a safety barrier in place. Because just with putting nothing there would, I think, get us in a really bad spot.
Just a thought.
Yep, I appreciate that. Okay, how's the council? Do you guys want to take this and separate this from the consent and vote separately? How? And leave it as is? Okay. Any other questions for Cale? Thoughts? Cale, do you have anything for us?
No, that was just only two things, was trying to figure out a different path and then also guest house being involved. I just didn't want to limit people going in there as well. And
Yeah.
I mean, if it means anything or helps at all, we're going to have a speaker there as well and a microphone. So I'm happy to kind of talk about what they have going on and try to encourage people to go into those businesses as well
Okay.
while they're down there.
And
To give you some advice, I'd have people downtown to get ready to close streets early.
yeah.
Congratulations and good luck. I hope this works out. As a place that hosts a Mustang show annually, I know it's a big following, and a lot of big deals. There'll be a lot of ponies in this town, so.
I appreciate it.
Okay. If there is no other discussion, then roll call on the consent agenda, please.
Mrs. Ross,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Bateman,
Yes,
Mr. Sanders,
Yes.
Mrs. McClellan,
Abstain.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Downs.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Next up is item 6, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds, alternate revenue source, in one or more series of the city of Lincoln, Logan County, Illinois, in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $6 million for the purpose of financing the costs of various capital-related items within the city and paying for costs related thereto. Have a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Alderman Sanders made the motion. Alderman Downs second. Discussion? Ms. Rolfs?
I just have a question. We decided at the meeting last week that this is for the Fifth Street Road, or we were told, we didn't make it.
That's correct.
I didn't see it in any of the documents. Where does it come out that this is for the Fifth Street Road project?
Well, it is. The treasurer can keep me honest, but my understanding is the issuing companies for the bonds require us to put this item on the agenda specifically as it is written. And so it doesn't say Fifth Street, but it is the Fifth Street Road project. We can guarantee you it's
And we can just think in terms of $6 million is the Fifth Street Road project. We don't have anything else for $6 million, right?
well, the Fifth Street Road project, I mean, we have documents, and I don't know if they've been shared, but there's a cost breakdown. Yeah, I don't have it in here. But there's a cost breakdown for the project, and after going back to the engineers, after we've gone through multiple steps, that $6 million is the amount that we've landed on. That's the city's share. But, and the treasurer can correct me if I'm wrong here, but we don't plan on taking the full amount initially. We're going to do it in a phased approach. And the project will probably take a couple years once we get shovels in the ground. There's a lot of work to be done on it.
So
Mr.
will
Conzo?
those figures be given to us at some point, or
What be given to us?
Which
figures on what, the breakdown?
Yeah.
we have a funding source document that we'd be glad to share with you. Mr. Conzo?
Thank you, Mayor. I tried to cover a little bit of this last week on the phone. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be here with you all last week. But this particular ordinance is designed to enable us to go out and issue the bonds. This isn't actually the ordinance that will issue those bonds, and that's what kind of what the mayor was referring to when he was talking about us doing it incrementally. So when we have an idea of what we would need for the first construction season, we would go out and issue the bonds in the amount that we needed for that. I'm guessing this is going to be at least 2, maybe, I don't know, maybe 3 construction seasons, Mr. Superintendent.
Yeah, the hope is 2.
Well,
Things change.
so minimum of 2, you would say, right? Yeah. And so we would issue them incrementally like that. And those would be more specific as to the amount and what the purpose of the bonds are. This is just kind of an enabling act to allow us to do that.
Thank you.
So we'll email you the project breakdown. Okay. Any other discussion on this item? Roll call, please.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mrs. Ross?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Sanders?
Yes.
Mrs. McCullen?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Okay, next item is 6B, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of real estate known as 718 South Chicago Street. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Alderwoman O'Donahue made the motion. Alderman Sanders second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sanders?
Yes.
Mrs. McClellan?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mrs. Ross?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Next item is item 7, approval of bid from Harold Goodman Incorporated for the demolition and removal of the property at 513 North Madison Street in an amount not to exceed $5,200.
Move. Second.
Alderman Sanders made the motion. Alderwoman Rolfs second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Ross?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Sanders?
Yes.
Mrs. McCullen?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Okay, next up is item 9A, approval of economic development grant to Hild Brothers Construction, 118 North McLean for roof replacement in an amount not to exceed $7,500.
Motion to approve. Second.
Alderman Downs made the motion. Alderman Sanders second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sanders?
Yes.
Mrs. McCullen?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mrs. Ross?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Okay, next up is 9B, approval of economic development grant to John Agee with Agee Farms at 1240 Keokuk for beam replacement in an amount not to exceed $7,500.
So moved.
Second.
Alderman Parrott made the motion. Alderman Sanders second. Discussion? Ms. Rolfs?
I will be abstaining from this vote. I voted no for it in commission, and I've looked at it. I just feel that the economic development activity that we discussed at that meeting is not compatible with the rest of the economic development grants that we've looked at, and I just don't feel right about voting for something that I'm really not necessarily positive that it falls in the same economic development activity.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sanders?
Yes.
Mrs. McCullen?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mrs. Ross?
Abstain.
Mrs. O'Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
All right, next up is 9C, the approval of economic development grant to MLWH LLC at 1200 North Logan for roof replacement in an amount not to exceed $7,500.
Move to approve.
Second.
Alderwoman O'Donohue made the motion. Alderman Sanders second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sanders?
Yes.
Mrs. McCollum?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mrs. Ross?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donohue?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Okay, next up is 9D, approval of economic development grant to Chuck's Glass at 221 South Sherman for front entrance door and windows in an amount not to exceed $7,390.
Move to approve.
Second.
Alderwoman Rolfs made the motion. Alderman Parrott second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mrs. Ross?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donohue?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Sanders?
Yes.
Mrs. McCollum?
Yes.
Okay. And then last one is 9E, assignment of interest for properties at 112 South Chicago Street, 114 South Chicago Street, and 116 South Chicago Street.
Move to approve.
Second.
Alderman Bateman made the motion. Alderwoman O'Donohue second. Discussion? Ms. Rolfs?
I would like to know if we know anything about the company that is looking at that.
They own the bottle factory.
Well, I know that, but when I looked it up, they're from South Carolina. They're not
No,
local,
one of them,
but it says, so they're local now. I think the public should.
one of the gentlemen is Jake Johnson, who owns Jake's Furnishings in town. His other partner is Richard Marvel, and Richard does business in Lincoln as a lawyer, but he lives in Bloomington, and I can't remember their third partner,
Nick Hurley.
Nick Hurley. So they all have local connections.
That's good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Hoblet, you have anything to add on this one?
Well, the only difference between the discussion is now that there's a written document of the assignment of interest that is to be attached to previously passed 2024-1022. So, with the idea being that we would handle this to the title company, which would and then enter into a contractual arrangement with this company, MLWC LLC. So, and that this is a company, yes, that does have local connections. That has the bottle pump. We just approved a grant for the bottle factory with their name on it. So, I can't speak as to the particulars as to what they want to do with the property, but I believe it's similar in scope to what will hopefully soon be the previous interested party. So,
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. O'Donohue?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Sanders?
Yes.
Mrs. McCollum?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mrs. Ross?
Yes.
Okay, that brings us down to announcements. I have one announcement, and that is there is a ribbon cut tomorrow from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. at the Oasis. And this is a ribbon cut / open house out at the Oasis. So if you're able to attend, I know it's a little earlier in the day. Some people may not be off, but if you are able to attend, I'm sure they'd love to have you out there. And the other one, Chief, did you want to touch base on the Family Fun Day at the park this past weekend?
I'd like to express my gratitude to everybody who came out in the community, especially on a day like last Saturday. It was kind of brutal out there. I think it was a fun event. Had quite a few people out there, which I was happy to see. Thanks to Walt and his crew, the park looked great. It was in great shape, and he got us a couple extra tables to use. So we just look forward to doing some more of it and moving forward with those types of projects.
Thanks. Mr. Bateman.
As the unofficial Lincoln Speedway promoter, they have 2 races scheduled this week. There's a regular race scheduled for Friday night, and then July 8th will be the big flow night racing, which will be televised. It's a pay-per-view, but you can go on to YouTube the very next day and watch the whole thing live. A lot of drone footage and stuff. You'll get to see how many dollars flow into this town. But just wanted to make sure that the citizens know that there's a regular race night Friday, and then the big dollar race with the large car count will be Monday night as a makeup for the rain out earlier in the year.
Kevin, I think I heard on the radio that anybody that had tickets to that, they just come and present those tickets, and for some reason, if the individuals that aren't able to attend and they have those tickets, that they can call the promoter or the ticket office and try to get. I think it's what I heard on the radio this morning on 96.3.
I think that's what was said. It's been a while back, but yes, if you can't attend, let's hope the rain holds out, because this is the premier race that this racetrack holds every year. There'll be people from even other countries. I think last year Miss Bateman and I went, and there was cars from New Zealand racing. So it's a big deal.
Mr. Bounds, did you have something?
Yeah, we'll be closing a portion of Washington Street between 7th and Short 8th next week for a sewer repair. We're targeting a start date of Monday, but we've got 2 or 3 items to polish up before we know that. But it will be closed next week for that sewer repair.
Mr. Parrott?
Walt, on Union, I saw a barricade out with some water on top of the road. Is something going to get fixed there?
I don't know anything about any water on the road.
No, it was just a puddle. I don't know if it was just there from rain or something.
We have 2 active sinkholes in Union Street right now.
Okay.
Both of them are marked, and locates were called in on one last week. We were notified of one today, which is right by Pekin and 9th Street. We placed a barricade over it, and we'll get the locates called in on it. And then at some point we will investigate and try to figure out what's going on.
And then,
But neither one of those have water on them though.
okay.
So I don't know if you're talking about something different, or they didn't, at least this afternoon when I was there.
This was a few days ago, I think, or right when the barricade was placed out there. I think I saw some water on top of it, and I think we might have had some rain maybe the day before or something.
Do we believe that these are due to Union still settling from the project?
That would be my guess, but we just want to make sure there's no other problems.
Okay.
You know, something else that may have happened, or with another utility or anything like that. So we will have to open the road up and investigate a little bit and see what we come across.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because from time to time we get asked, when is Union going to be resurfaced, right? Because it really didn't have a solid surface put back on after the project. And these are the reasons why, because that road's still settling.
Correct. Yeah, that's why I recommend not doing that portion of Union Street until at least for a year or two, anyways. And here we still have stuff popping up. So, and we're not absolutely sure what it's related to. So we'll look into it and see what we can figure out. On that note, it is the intentions to have Union Street north of Woodlawn Road, which should get resurfaced this year, from Woodlawn to Lincoln Parkway. So that section should get done.
Okay. All right, Mr. Parrott?
I know we're all anxiously awaiting the mural to go up. Didn't know if there was an update between Wes or Walt. I know that you're in communication with Scott Lindy in regards to how to put it up.
He simply emailed us and said it's done. So since then, we're kind of figuring out how to frame it and whatnot. We've had conversations, so we're looking to hopefully late this week, early next week to start the framing.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we've got material being put together, bent metal, that sort of stuff. We got to get a lot prepared to tackle it, so equipment and whatnot. So
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
I would say in the next few weeks for sure.
All right, great. Thank you.
Can we go ahead and schedule a day for the unveiling of the mural, or an event like not a ribbon cut, maybe? I don't know.
I think it'd be I talked with Ernesto the other day, and told him and gave him a little bit of an update and saying I'm hopeful it's going to come up in sometime in July, so that I told him there'd probably be a ribbon cut, and then we'd get with Nyla, and I think it'd be a great thing to have a ribbon cut.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, if we could get the framing done first, that'll be big, and then of course we need to talk with the artist and exactly how it attaches. From what I've gathered, he just paints the panels, and now we figure it out from there. So
Yep. Okay.
But I think they'll go up fairly easy once we get that done and something could probably be
Are
scheduled.
we just gonna run a lift for that?
We'll have to get a couple.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Just a reminder, we're getting ready to go into the 4th of July celebration week, and we get these calls annually about people launching fireworks in the streets. If you do, just make sure that they're legal. Don't do them where you're not supposed to, and be mindful because other people do have pets, and those are usually the people we hear about because their pets get startled. They run. There was one last year that took off from the owner's house, and that owner didn't find that dog for several weeks. He did come home. So please just be mindful and respectful of your neighbors if you choose to celebrate for the 4th, and everybody have a safe and happy 4th. Mr. Bateman.
Posting it on social media is not notifying us that there's fireworks going off. The same incident that Mr. Welch is describing, someone complained that there's fireworks going off all the time in the neighborhood. They said that they've notified. While I was talking to that individual, Mr. Welch reached out to dispatch and found that there was absolutely 0 phone calls to dispatch about people shooting off fireworks in that particular neighborhood. We know you may not know who it is, but at least give us a general idea so that we can notify people, or an officer or somebody can go out and patrol that area. The answer I got back from that individual was, I posted it on Facebook, so consider yourself notified. If you just do that, I don't know about you, Joe, but I don't think you got the whereabouts, even with all the equipment we have, to just generally know where a firework went off at.
First of all, the 4th of July is always challenging for law enforcement if you're in a town of any size whatsoever. We get a very high volume of calls that we have to sift through. Some of them come in as shots fired, and of course we have to go to those and prioritize them. We'll get people to the area as soon as we can, but you got to call dispatch. Our officers aren't on Facebook watching for problems to pop up on social media. They're responding to radio calls. So if you need help, need assistance, call dispatch. If it's not an emergency, you can use a non-emergency number, but if it's a dangerous situation, call 911. Please don't use social media to try to report these things. And that's as nice as I can be about the social media posts, because I'm not a fan of it.
Since we're on the topic, Chief Johnson, do you want to remind people about how to properly have fires if they choose to have gatherings? This is a topic as well.
Yeah, the ordinance is pretty clear. If you're doing a recreational fire, it isn't like when you do when we burn leaves on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, 50 foot from any structure, keep a water source present capable of putting the fire out and have it attended at all times. The recreational fire ordinance is a little different. It's allowed to go until midnight, needs to still be 3 foot in diameter or smaller. The 50 foot variance from any structure is waived, but you have to be out there. You have to have a hose. You can't be intoxicated, things like that. If someone calls and complains, if we get a call from dispatch, we have to respond. We have to check it out. If you're legal, you'll be allowed to continue to burn. If you're not, you're going to have to put it out. If you get a fine after that, then you weren't nice to us when we got there. But we try and work with people, especially on weekends like this. So,
All right. Thanks, Chief. Okay. Does anybody else have another announcement they'd like to share? Okay. I'd like to ask a member of the council to make a motion to go into exec session under 2C1 personnel and 2C11 litigation.
I move to go in executive session under 2C1 personnel and 2C11
litigation. Is there a second? Alderman Parrott made the motion. Alderman Downs, second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mrs. Ross?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Sanders?
Yes.
Ms. McCollum?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Okay, we'll be going into executive session. There will be no city business to follow. 6:45 PM.